Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we are going to learn English with a real story. This is the story of Thomas Edison. He was one of the most famous inventors in the history of the world. He gave us the light bulb. He gave us the phonograph. He also helped build the first movie cameras. His ideas changed daily life for almost everyone on this planet. This story is not just about machines. It is about a boy who never stopped asking questions, even when the whole world told him to stop. Let's begin. Part 1. A Curious Boy. Thomas Edison was born on February 11, 1847. He was born in a small town in America called Milan, Ohio. He was the youngest child in his family. He had 6 older brothers and sisters. As a small child, Thomas was full of questions. Why is the sky blue? Why does fire burn? Why do birds fly but people cannot? He asked these questions again and again, every single day. He never accepted a simple answer. He always wanted to know more. When Thomas started school, his teachers did not understand him. He asked too many questions in class. He also learned in a different way from other children. One teacher became frustrated and said that Thomas was slow and confused. This was not true at all. Thomas was not slow. He was simply thinking in a different direction from everyone else. This comment made his mother very sad. She had been a teacher herself in the past, so she made a bold decision. She took Thomas out of school completely. She decided to teach him at home in her own way. This decision became one of the most important moments in his entire life. At home, young Thomas could learn at his own speed. Nobody told him to stop asking questions. Nobody called him slow. He read as many books as he could find. He read about science. He read about history. He read about nature. He wanted to understand how the entire world worked piece by piece. By the age of 10, Thomas had already built his own small science area in the basement of his house. A basement is the room under a house. In this small space, he used simple chemicals to run little experiments. Some of these experiments were successful. Many others failed completely, but Thomas did not care about the failures. Each failed experiment simply gave him a new question to explore. His family did not have a lot of money, so Thomas used his own small amount of pocket money to buy the materials he needed. Even as a child, he was already showing signs of the hard-working man he would later become. Part 2. The Newspaper Boy. When Thomas was 12 years old, his family faced financial difficulty. So, Thomas got his very first job. He began selling newspapers and snacks on a train that traveled between cities. This job might sound very small and simple, but for young Thomas it became a golden opportunity. The train stopped for a long time at each station along the route, and during these long stops, Thomas found free time. He used every single free minute wisely. He read books. He studied science articles, and soon he even built a tiny laboratory inside one of the train cars. One day, something went wrong. A small fire started because of one of his chemical experiments. The train worker in charge became extremely angry. He threw Thomas, along with all of his equipment, off the moving train at the next station. This could have been the end of his story, but it was not. Thomas simply picked up his equipment, and he continued exploring new ideas in a new place. During this same period of his life, something else important happened. Thomas slowly began to lose his hearing. Nobody today knows the exact reason for this. Some old stories say it was because of an illness. Other stories say it happened because of an accident on the train. Whatever the true reason was, here is something truly amazing about Thomas Edison. He never saw his hearing loss as only a sad problem. Later in his life, he openly said that his hearing loss actually helped him in his work. It blocked outside noise and distraction. This allowed him to focus deeply for many hours on his own thoughts and his own ideas. This teaches us something very powerful. A problem in your life does not have to remain only a problem forever. If you look at it from a different angle, that same problem can slowly become one of your greatest strengths. Part 3. Learning the telegraph. At the age of 15, Thomas learned an important new skill. It was called telegraphy. A telegraph was a machine that people used to send written messages very quickly, using electric signals sent through wires. This was many years before telephones were invented. Thomas became skilled at working with these telegraph machines. He began traveling from city to city across America, working in different telegraph offices along the way. He was young, and he did not have a permanent home, but he was gaining valuable experience with electricity and machines everywhere he went. Most workers at these offices only did one simple job. They sent messages. They received messages. That was all. But Thomas was different from these other workers. While doing his normal job, he also studied the telegraph machines very closely whenever he had free time. He wanted to understand exactly how each part of the machine worked. He wanted to find ways to make these machines faster, stronger, and more reliable. This curious habit was the true beginning of Thomas Edison, the inventor. In 1869, when he was only 22 years old, Thomas made a big decision. He moved to New York City to try his luck. At this point in his life, he had very little money. He was almost completely broke, sleeping in cheap rooms and struggling to buy food. But Thomas had one very good idea in his mind. At that time, financial offices used a machine called a stock ticker, which shared price information between different offices. Thomas found a clever way to improve this machine, making it far more accurate and dependable than before. His improved version worked so well that a company offered to pay him $40,000 for the rights to his design. At that time in history, this was an enormous amount of money, more than most people could earn in many, many years of hard work. Thomas made a very wise choice with this new money. He did not spend it on luxury, comfort, or an easy lifestyle. Instead, he invested almost all of it into building his own private laboratory, a special place fully dedicated to research and invention. This laboratory would soon become the birthplace of some of the greatest inventions the world has ever known. Part 4. The Invention Factory. In 1876, Thomas built a brand new laboratory. It was located in a quiet place called Menlo Park, in the state of New Jersey. This was not like a normal small workshop. This was one of the very first places in the entire world built only for the purpose of inventing new things, again and again. Thomas hired a large team of skilled workers. These included scientists, engineers, and skilled craftsmen. He famously told his team that he wanted to create something small every 10 days and something truly big every few months. Because of this incredible pace of work, newspapers began calling him the Wizard of Menlo Park. People everywhere started to see him as a kind of magician who could turn simple ideas into real machines. It was here, in 1877, that Thomas created his first truly famous invention. It was called the phonograph. The phonograph was a machine that could record sound, and then play that same sound back later, whenever someone wanted to hear it again. Before this invention, once a sound disappeared into the air, it was gone forever. There was no way to save a person's voice. There was no way to save a piece of music for the future. Thomas changed this completely, in a way that no one had ever done before. When he first showed the phonograph in public, people were amazed. Some people could not believe what they were hearing. A few people even thought it might be some kind of clever trick, because a machine capturing a human voice seemed almost impossible at that time. This one single invention made Thomas Edison famous, not just in America, but in countries all around the world. Part 5. The light bulb. Now, let's talk about the invention that most people remember him for today. This is the electric light bulb. It is important to understand one thing clearly. Thomas did not invent the very first light bulb in history. Other inventors before him had already created early, basic versions of electric lights. However, those early versions had big, serious problems. They burned out very quickly. They were far too expensive for a normal family to buy and use at home. Thomas had a clear and different goal in his mind. He wanted to build a light bulb that was safe, affordable, and could stay lit for many hours without breaking. He wanted every single home in every city to be able to use electric lights safely and easily. To reach this goal, Thomas and his team tested an enormous number of different materials for the thin wire inside the bulb. They tried cotton thread. They tried thin pieces of metal. They tried many other natural materials. Some old stories say Thomas tested around 1,000 different materials. Other stories claim the real number was much higher than that. One day, a newspaper reporter asked Thomas a difficult question. The reporter asked if he felt like a failure after so many unsuccessful attempts. Thomas gave an answer that is still famous today. He said, "I have not failed. I have simply found many ways that do not work." This single idea has inspired millions of people around the world for more than 100 years. Failure is never really the end of your journey. Failure simply gives you useful information. It quietly tells you what to try differently next time. Finally, in 1879, after countless attempts, Thomas succeeded. He created a light bulb using a treated cotton thread inside it. This bulb could glow steadily for many hours without burning out. It was a massive breakthrough and a turning point in modern history. Part 6. Lighting up the world. Creating one single working light bulb was not enough for Thomas. He had a much bigger dream in his mind. He wanted to bring electric light into every single home, in every single city all around the world. To make this dream real, Thomas built entire power stations. He built wires under the busy city streets. He designed a full and complete system that could safely deliver electricity directly into people's homes and businesses. In 1882, Thomas opened the world's very first commercial power station. It was located on Pearl Street in New York City. For the very first time in human history, ordinary paying customers had real electric light shining inside their own homes and shops. This moment was not simply another invention. This was the true beginning of a brand new global industry, an industry that still quietly powers our entire modern world today, in almost every country on Earth. Part 7. A big competition. As Thomas became more and more successful, a serious competition began between rival inventors. History books often call this event the War of Currents. Thomas strongly believed in one particular system for sending electricity through wires. However, another brilliant inventor, named Nikola Tesla, believed strongly in a completely different system. For several years, these two competing systems fought hard for public support and business contracts across the country. In the end, Tesla's system eventually became more widely popular around most parts of the world. Many countries, even today, still rely on a system that is very similar to it. This part of the story teaches us something truly important about life. Even brilliant, successful people can sometimes be wrong. What matters most in the end is not being perfect at every single moment. What truly matters is choosing to keep working hard and keep contributing something valuable, even after facing disappointment or defeat. Part 8. More inventions and later life. Thomas did not stop inventing after the light bulb became successful. Across his entire lifetime, he created more than 1,000 different inventions in the United States alone. He also helped develop some of the earliest movie camera equipment ever built. Because of this important work, many historians today consider him one of the true founding figures of the modern film industry. However, even though Thomas achieved incredible success in his work, his personal life at home was not always easy or peaceful. He often spent long hours, sometimes entire nights, working inside his laboratory without proper rest. Because of this deep dedication to his work, he was sometimes absent during important moments with his own family and children. This reminds us of something very real and very human about every great achievement. Even people who accomplish extraordinary things in the world often face quiet struggles and personal sacrifices that we never see or hear about. Thomas Edison passed away on October 18, 1931, at the age of 84. After his death, many communities across America dimmed their lights for a short moment, as a quiet and respectful tribute to the man who had once lit up their entire world. Part 9. Lessons from his life. Before we end this story, let's talk about a few important lessons we can take from his incredible life. First, curiosity is a powerful gift. Never stop asking questions, no matter what other people say about you. Second, failure is simply a normal part of any journey. Every failed attempt quietly brings you one step closer to real success. Third, your weaknesses can sometimes become your greatest strengths. Thomas turned his hearing loss into a useful tool for deep focus and concentration. Fourth, always keep working, even after making mistakes. Even when Thomas lost the war of currents, he still continued to build, to contribute, and to move forward with his life's work. Thomas Edison once said something truly powerful, and it is still remembered today. He said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% hard work. This simple idea perfectly explains his entire life story. He was not simply a lucky man who found success by chance. He was a hard-working man who refused to give up, even after failing thousands of times along the way. So, the next time you turn on a light in your own room, remember this story. Remember the small boy who was once called slow and confused by his own teacher, and who eventually grew up to light up the entire world for everyone. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more English learning stories. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.